Good afternoon. Sorry, I was supposed to be here this morning, but something came up called government. Um, yeah, as was just mentioned there by Chris, BIPV was supposed to be the future about 20 years ago. Unfortunately, then what they didn't figure out was there would be a demand that exceeded supply for solar, and so all the manufacturers of the world just made one panel and just forgot about BIPV. Now it's coming full circle again and starting to happen. Just out of interest, for those that don't know, Romag were the people that used to make the BIPV for BP Solar when we're demonstrating it around the world. And they've just been bought out the other day, and solar is still part of their business model, so we can still get it. Looking at storage though, if you think about solar, it was all, when I started in solar, it was all about a solar panel and a battery, and that was the future market sort of thing. It came from the space industry, the battery up in space with a few solar panels. And we used to do all sorts of things around remote places in Africa and various other parts of the world, bringing power to the people or creating water pumps that worked with solar energy and things like that. But if you look at where storage has gone in recent times, and basically in the last 2 or 3 years, the technology has advanced dramatically. And, we used to use lead acid batteries that weren't very good, didn't last very long. Those batteries have improved dramatically, but lithium-ion batteries are the things which have really changed the market. So you've got things like aeroplanes that fly around the world. It's just about to get back to Abu Dhabi, I believe. And, it flies at night, So quite different to what some of the comments on solar was originally. So by having storage means that solar, you can't have the criticism any longer, it only works in daytime, you can forget that, got too much energy in daytime. So absolute waste of time. That used to be the conversations we used to have in DTI in olden days, which have just formed again, I think, called BEIS, but never mind. We'll go full circle again. So the criticism always was that, until you could store energy, etc., solar didn't really have a part to play. So in the meantime, we put 12 gigawatt onto the grid system when National Grid said you can't put more than 10 gigawatt on. Somebody needs to do their calculations, I think. And if you look at where storage is coming from, you get the usual questions now. Will it work with solar? What type of technology? When's it going to happen? Is it affordable? Of course, all those answers are deliverable today. I mentioned lithium-ion battery development. Yeah, it came from a mobile phone, so laptops. You've all got laptops now. You can just plug in or not plug in and still work for 8 hours or whatever it might be. But if you take that technology and then you apply it to the motor industry, which is what Nissan originally and Tesla have now done, basically it's revolutionised where we're going with electric vehicles. So the speed of take-up of electric vehicles is going to be significant. And of course, if that speed and take-up is significant, therefore it drives down the cost of the batteries. And therefore we from an energy industry can have those batteries. If you look at the Nissan Leaf when it came out, it had a single charger, had a range of about 90 miles. And even the battery manufacturer at the time was saying, don't bring it out yet, the technology is going to move on fast. But Nissan wanted to be the first in the market with a car. Unfortunately, if you look at where they are today, it's a 155-mile range from the same size battery. And where they're targeting their new car, which is a new shape, but basically the same type of car, 5-seater car, they're targeting 340 miles. Probably from what looks like the same size of battery in terms of space. So the technology is moving on rapidly. Teslas, they came along with 260-mile range, but also had the performance of a Porsche, and they're heading to 350 miles. Audi, VW, Porsche, everybody else coming along with 350-mile range. So had these cars, which are now coming to the market, been brought out originally, things like range anxiety would never ever have happened, right? If you've got a battery that lasts the same as a tank of fuel, you wouldn't think about range anxiety. So there's a change coming. I think the other thing was that with those batteries, you had a charge, a plug-in everywhere sort of thing, and it was an 8-hour charge, and now that's down to 30 minutes, and they're heading to 15 minutes. So you'll hardly have time when you pull into a service area to have your cup of coffee before you car's fully charged again. So if you look at solar, though, and the similarity of lithium-ion batteries, mass production drove down the cost. We always said we needed the world to get behind solar and create enough market to drive down the cost. We needed multi-gigawatt capacity, and by getting that, we drive down the price to be affordable. It's probably heading now to be the cheapest form of electricity generation anywhere in the world. And things like MIP were just mentioned there. It's virtually dead because every one of the Chinese big manufacturers have got built plants in other countries now. So I can see the prices starting to come down quite quickly in the next period of time. If you look at world price compared with where we were stuck with Europe, European price was, in olden days before the exchange rate suddenly changed, about 41 pence a watt, and world price was 29 pence. See, we were paying a penalty. And all that money, of course, went to China, so it didn't stay in Europe. Silly rules. If you look at what Tesla announced, i.e. the building of the gigaplant, it is exactly the same strategy as solar went through, whereby if you take things to mass production, that size and scale, you drive down price. Tesla aren't the only ones with a gigaplant. Every other car manufacturer, every other battery manufacturer who generally are supplying the car industry are doing exactly the same. I was with Nissan this morning, and some of the descriptions they were saying about how they see the energy market, let alone the car market, in 5 years' time is going to be unbelievable. That's how quickly it's going to happen. So the big problem, it's a bit like when we're talking about solar in the past, we talked about crystalline, and we had reports all produced. You can't get below $2 a watt. With crystalline, we need a new material than film, and you've got to target that at $1 a watt, and that will be affordable, supplied to the world. And here we are today with crystalline at $0.50 a watt, or even lower. So, we've gone way beyond anything we ever dreamed of. Storage doing the same means that some of the other storage technologies which are out there may well struggle to find a market because you're competing with something which is going down in price so rapidly. The energy offers, Tesla again, great at branding and PR sort of thing, came out with that power wall, power pack, will supply energy not only to cars but also to buildings. And of course, all the other battery manufacturers are scaling up production, or the motor manufacturers are coming out with the same sort of offers. So Nissan have the same offers. Tesla, Daimler are doing the same, BMW, Volkswagen, they're all coming along with the same thing. So you'll be buying energy from car companies. It's completely changing. It's not, you would never have dreamed about this 2 or 3, 4 years ago. If you look at storage, though, it has multiple other benefits, right? So it's not just good for renewables, being able to use it at the right time, etc. It's also a benefit to other things, moving electricity around to higher cost periods, the red zones that people have got with half-hourly metering and things like that, helping the DNOs and National Grid control their distribution system and grid, stopping it sort of melting or whatever they say they're going to do next, keeping the voltage at the right levels, all the rest of the things. And what they're trying to now analyse is how quickly storage is coming along and what's the real impact on the 5 years' time market. Can't even dream what's going to be in 10 years' time. But if you're going to build a power station for delivery of electricity in 10 and 15 years' time, you've got to take account of where storage and some of the other technologies are going to be. It may be you don't need certain power stations. It'll be interesting to see how that develops. But smart technology is what really drives it. Being able to play around with everybody's single system around the country and make certain that helps with the grid. Make certain that when you plug your car in, it helps with the grid as well. And this is what Nissan came out recently. Anybody that wants to, go onto Nissan's website and just run the little video clip they have about the future. It's amazing sort of thing. And it's actually going to happen, And I think some people in the past would never have dreamed this. But basically, you've got some solar energy in that case, into your car, into a battery in your system, playing around with the grid at the same time as keeping your lights on. And if you want some extra electricity, you take it out the car. The computer knows where you're going the next morning, so has the right amount of power left in the battery, so you get there. So who needs a grid? We shall see. Of course, if you charging electric vehicles, if you're charging it from dirty grid electricity as we have today, not really clean vehicles, so therefore the fact of solar has a part to play there. And fast charging of electric vehicles, etc., causes problems on the grid, so you're going to end up with storage along by fast chargers and things like this. But if you use solar energy to charge up electric vehicles, so you park in car parks, everybody takes their car and parks in the car park lots of times. Sometimes you leave the car there all day, or you're there for a few hours. Well, of course, if you've got a solar canopy over there and you can plug it in and get that clean electricity, you can then take the clean electricity home and then plug it into your house and power your house. So, this is the future, and the future is literally just a few years away. This is how quickly it's happening. The motor industry are the fast movers in storage. The motor industry weren't 100% certain that batteries would go where they actually got there, so we're playing around with hydrogen. They've been playing with hydrogen longer than batteries. And there's a number of hydrogen fuel cell vehicles running around at the moment. They've got a longer range, or some have a longer range. I don't think cars in the future will be hydrogen. I think heavier vehicles will be hydrogen, where you don't need to have a hydrogen infrastructure. You can imagine the cost of putting an infrastructure in to supply hydrogen at every fuel station in the country, sort of thing. That's the sort of thing you'd have to do if you swap from petrol, diesel to hydrogen in the future. Electricity's all over the place in any case, so therefore it's easy to tap into. But if you look at heavy vehicles, the London buses, which are running around again, they were trialled a few years ago, and BP were involved in putting the filling station in, and as soon as the trial ended, they took the filling station away. They didn't want that sort of technology, want dirty petrol and diesel sort of thing. So, but those things are coming back, and therefore if you can have a filling station at your depot or whatever, you can charge up your buses and off they go. Totally clean, no pollution in London. And London's got some pollution problems, so you can see this happening quite quickly. There's a number of other cities in the country who are doing exactly the same, and I can see that sort of market growing. And but where does the hydrogen come from? Unfortunately, the hydrogen, the first 3-4% that we're using, will come from a byproduct of the fossil fuel industry. In the future, the holy grail of renewables was always whereby solar or wind in remote places would be converted into hydrogen through electrolysis. The hydrogen would be piped or tanked around the world, a complete replacement of oil. And that would allow you to move it over very large distances where you can't transfer electricity over large distances. The superconductors that were dreamed about never ever happened. So hydrogen has got a part to play in there, and clean hydrogen and renewables. You may end up with a solar panel in a desert producing the world's hydrogen, something like that. Can't see it. Anyway, but then again, battery technology. I mentioned on cars that battery technology, the car companies bet against both batteries and hydrogen. And on the heavier vehicles, it was thought that if you put batteries into a big vehicle, it would be so heavy you wouldn't be able to move it, right? And now there's double deckers, or 5 of them in London, and they're running on batteries. And so is it whereby you don't need hydrogen in large vehicles as well? I don't know. All I can say is technology is moving on so fast it's unbelievable. Where we're going with new buildings, government fell for the usual trap from the house building industry. They scrap zero carbon buildings. If you want houses built today, they've got to be just what we normally build. And so they scrapped it, and it made no difference. The house builders didn't build anymore. I saw a report the other day that in the last term of Parliament, government gave over about 100 land and had promises from the house builders to build 100,000 properties. At the end of 5 years, they'd built 30,000. The demand for housing had gone up more than what they'd built. So they're just keeping the market nice and buoyant, keep the prices up, etc., etc. However, technology moves on. I'm involved in some buildings at the moment which will have solar and storage on, will plug into electric vehicles, and they are the future. So if you come down to a place called Berkeley in Gloucester, in a few months' time, you'll be able to see the first demonstrations of that, and it'll be rolled out around the country. It's all about smart technology, though, how you interface all these things together. Anyway, as far as I'm concerned, solar's never going to die. Storage is never going to die as we know it today. So, you know, put the two together, that is the future. Those photographs at the side there just show, you know, aeroplanes, ships, buildings, even buildings in London, and cars, all powered by electricity, and solar has a major part to play in that. Thank you very much.